Welcome to Live Breathe Film, episode 119. You're here with Doug and Murph. Thank you for joining us. Today, we'll finally be running through each of our favorite TV shows of 2024. I know it's a delay. We're pretty far into 2025, and there's been a lot of great stuff in 2025 already. But we still wanted to touch upon our favorites of 2024, along with Corey's favorites that he got a chance to see from the year. As always, a friendly reminder before we begin, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to Live Breathe Film wherever you choose to listen to your favorite podcasts. We appreciate all your support, and we will be reminding you at the end of the episode to like and subscribe and things like that, since Doug created a new end credit sequence that we hadn't had before, and it's got a special appearance by our buddy Corey, our former co-host. So stay tuned for that. Since we didn't get a chance to mention it in our previous episode, since we weren't sure if it was going to be done by then, but it is done, and we think it turned out pretty well, and is a nice little tribute to Corey. All right, Doug. Kind of already gave the preamble now to talking about our favorite TV shows of 2024, so I guess we can go dive right into your top 10. There is some overlap between your list, my list, and Corey's list. For Corey, we just went alphabetical. But whenever there's crossover on a list, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the show at large when we discuss your list, and then we'll just mention it when we go through my list and then Corey's list. But our lists are ranked. So why don't we start with your number 10 pick?
Sure. My number 10 pick is a show that I was not anticipating at all and was probably a surprise for me in 2024. And it's Agatha All Along. Um, Seemed kind of ridiculous to make a show off of a character from WandaVision that was kind of comedic relief with Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
Was There was a I think one of the Disney events. I don't know if it was D23 or Comic Con. They had a musical performance done with Catherine Hahn in the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if
Yeah, it was
that really.
D23.
I don't think that really amped up my anticipation. It just was like that's interesting that there's a musical component to this. Um, but yeah, what a surprise! I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a worthy spin-off of WandaVision in that it had its own quirkiness to it. Catherine Hahn gives a great performance as they provide more depth to the Agatha character, who's the villain, or I guess one of the villains of WandaVision, since you could argue Wanda is the villain of
Right? Yeah.
WandaVision, um, even though she's also the protagonist. But yeah, I really dug this show. I thought the way that they handled it um, felt like one of the most or one of the best jobs I've seen Marvel do in making a TV show versus a really long movie.
Mm-hmm.
Each episode, although it progressed the story, were also felt like TV episodes, and that they kind of were all focused on like a trial.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that. I thought I can't remember who's the creator or writer of the show.
Uh, Jack um,
Yeah, Jack something.
Schaefer or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think it is Jack Schaefer. That sounds right.
Uh, yeah, that is right.
Um, yeah, I think she's cracked the code on how to do TV for Marvel. I think Jack Schaefer should be in charge of all TV for Marvel because I think she gets it more than a lot of the other folks
Yeah.
when they produce TV for Marvel.
Yeah, you're totally right about it feeling more episodic than almost all the other Marvel TV shows that just feel like a long movie that's just cut at different points. While this one, there's a clear story in every single episode while continuing to advance the overall plot. But yeah, she's between this and WandaVision. It's disappointing that she won't be returning for the Vision TV show because A, that's the last spinoff of WandaVision, and B, she seems to really get it. But hopefully more shows follow in her model moving forward. Because yes, this did make my list as well. I believe I had it at number 8. And yeah, this was one that I was mocking prior to release. I think we got a little less. We got more forgiving towards it as we got closer. I even kind of recall Corey being a little more like open to it by the time
Yeah, he actually was looking forward to it.
it
I
was
think
nearing its release.
as it was nearing its release because they released a trailer, and we all thought the
Yeah,
trailer looked good. I think he was the most high on the trailer out of all of us, but I
yeah,
thought we all thought the
that
trailer
sounds right.
made it look a lot better than what we were
We were,
anticipating. So yeah, I
yeah,
think
we're
he
like,
was. I think it became an anticipated show for him.
yeah, and it was like following on the heels of Deadpool and Wolverine. So it was like, okay, maybe they're like starting to get their groove back. Um, and it premiered within a month of him passing. So yeah, I think he was um, the most excited of it of all of us. So I think it probably would have ended up making his list as well. Because I mean, you and I think both consider it a top 3 Disney Plus MCU show alongside WandaVision and Loki.
Yep,
So all right, um, you have another Marvel show at number 9. Let's hear it.
I do. Number 9, X-Men '97. Um, I was so happy with the show. I watched the original X Men series from the '90s. It was one of the cartoons that I actually really enjoyed watching and kind of got me into X Men and um, like superhero type comic book properties. And I didn't really read a ton of comics. I more watched the comic book shows, and X Men. The X Men '90s series was definitely a staple for me. So the fact that they brought this series back, I was pretty cautiously optimistic about, and I thought they knocked it out of the park. The animation, they tried to preserve the original animation style of the '90s. They got a chunk of voice actors back that were still alive, and they basically just enhanced the. I would say they enhanced and brought into modern day the animation while still staying true to the '90s, and the stories got elevated too, where it kind of felt like they realized that the people like us that were kids watching this show are now adults, and so the storylines also got a little bit more adult and a little bit darker. Um, but yeah, I thought they knocked this out of the park. This was uh, something every week I look forward to, just sitting down, turning on the TV and watching one of these cartoon episodes, and just kind of transported me back to being a kid, coming home and watching it after school. Um, I guess one of the things that got me excited for too, as we're kind of looking forward towards um, some of the X Men characters like James Marsden coming back as Cyclops for the new Avengers Doomsday movie, is just I forgot how much of a badass Cyclops can be, and this show really showed Cyclops as more of a badass. So now I'm kind of excited to maybe see if when they bring James Marsden back, they make Cyclops more of a badass than kind of like the cock type character that they made him in the
In the
movies, the
original
Fox
trilogy.
movies,
Yeah.
where like Cyclops is the leader and he's supposed to be like a leader. And they were like, nope,
Well,
Wolverine's now the leader.
yeah. He's
Hugh
later.
Jackman.
He's gonna get with Gene. Um, sorry, buddy.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. But all that to say, yeah, I thought they knocked this out of the park. It was everything I could hope for, and probably more with that show.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of the original run like on Saturday mornings on Fox when I was a kid, but I haven't watched this one for whatever reason. I watch all the live action Marvel and Star Wars shows, but don't watch any of the cartoon ones. Like I gave What If a try for that first season, and was so turned off that I just haven't watched any animated stuff that Marvel's put out since then. But I know
This
you
is
and many others are rave about it. I mean, it's in its own world, separate from the MCU, which probably helps it quite a bit. Um, and
yeah,
considering it's
it's
a sequel series to the original run, which was way before the MCU ever existed, I'm not surprised that it's turned out to be a solid reboot.
yeah, no, it blows What If out of the water. Um, and it literally takes place right after the original series ended.
Yeah, so
So they
just
kind of just pick up right where they left
next
off.
season, yeah, as if it was 1997, because that
Yeah.
was the year it got canceled. So,
Yep.
okay, cool.
All right. Well, that takes me to my number 8 show on my list, which is Netflix's The Diplomat. This was actually season 2. Um, the show stars
Wait, Netflix had a
Carrie.
show that made it to season two?
I
Wow.
know, shocking.
You know it's not going
I
to go
don't.
much further than that because it's Netflix.
I hope it does. It's really good. Carrie Russell's kind of is the star, I would say, of this show. Um, she's just so good. Obviously, we both loved her
In the
in The
Americans.
Americans, and she does a fantastic job in this show. Um, it's also got um, Rufus Sewell, who's been in a lot of things, like Man in the High Castle. Is and
Dark City, right?
I
JP loves that movie.
is he in Dark City?
I think he was the star of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, he looks different.
he,
um,
he
yeah,
aged
I
in
had
26 years.
Yeah, I did not realize that's him. Wow, that's shocking. Um, yeah, he's also great. She plays someone that is kind of like a career. Um, I forget what her role was, but she works overseas and like not really a politician, not really political at all. Just more of a like get the job done type of person. And her husband was the former diplomat Rufus Sewell to the UK, and she basically gets elevated to be the diplomat um, for reasons that'll become known to you. And it's just kind of like it's interesting trying to see her, navigate being a politician or dealing with politics when she's not really a politician.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like drama and twists and turns, and it's just, Carrie Russell just I think knocks it out of the park, and the writing's really well done. It's also got the guy from which I was also shocked because it didn't look like him. But the guy from Interstellar, who's stays back on the ship when they go down to the really big planet
Yes.
and
Yes.
ages.
I did see him in the credits to the show when Interstellar was released. I was wondering what else he's been in, and I was like, oh, he's currently on the Diplomat.
And it's just interesting on how much younger he looks in The Diplomat than he does in Interstellar.
Yeah,
Part
when
of
we're
it,
talking.
they're aging him up, but he's also great. David Giassi. Apologies if I
Yeah,
pronounced his name.
who played Romilly in Interstellar.
Yeah, he's great too. All the acting's great. The writing's great. It's just a really solid Netflix show that I feel like not enough people probably watch.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Shame on me, and especially because I mean, like you said, loved Carrie Russell on The Americans. Seems like this is a very different role than Elizabeth Jennings. Um, so it is probably something I should catch up on. You're not the first person who's told me it's something worth watching.
Yeah, no, it's really good. All right, that takes me to number 7. This is number 7 on my list. I suspect you'll probably do the majority of the talking about the show because I think you like it even more than I do, and that's The Bear.
Oh. Ah, yes. Bear
The
is
Bears.
the bear is the first one that is on all three of our lists. Um, but yeah, I definitely liked it the most. season 3 the most of the three of us.
Yeah, I think it was. I think season two to me was a stronger season. Season three we've talked about. It's kind of like part one of
Yeah, I
a
mean
season.
it's half a
It's
season.
yeah, it's half a season, which I think holds it back a little bit from maybe being as strong as the other seasons. They also like
They got a little
with
artsy
this.
fartsy.
That's what I was gonna say. It's
Pretentious.
like it gets a little like very artsy this season. You can tell
Yeah, and
they're
it
trying
didn't.
to stretch.
Sometimes it worked very well,
Yes,
and sometimes it didn't
some,
work as well.
sometimes it's just like, am I still watching The Bear, or is this like another show?
Yeah, like is
Um,
this a comedy? Like at all? Like, or are we just pretending like that is a thing of the past and this is now a
right.
straight up drama?
Yeah, but I mean, still very good show. Really enjoyed. I think that it's gotten less. For me, it was always hard to watch like how crazy the kitchen was. For me, this wasn't quite as bad. Like I wasn't as anxious watching this season as I have been with other seasons. And the acting is still superb. Um, I mean,
Yeah, and you still have
it's just a
episodes that are standouts that like just based on the title, like the like napkins. Um,
mhm.
Shockingly, John Bernthal returns for it. Anytime he pops up in an episode, like it's going to be absolutely like dynamite. Um, but yeah, it's not. It was definitely not as high anxiety as um, the prior seasons. I think each season has gotten less of that to a degree, while still maintaining a level of frenzied anxiety with lots of screaming and cursing and whatnot. But yeah, I'd say this was my least favorite of the three so far, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they filmed seasons 3 and 4 together. Um, the majority of season 4 with season 3, and it ends with a to be continued. A lot of the storylines that the season set up were not resolved at the end. So when season 4 airs in what I imagine will be June of this year, I think we'll get a lot of closure to storylines from season 3, and it'll work even greater as a whole. That's my expectation, at least. But
I
still
think
loved
that yeah,
all almost all moments with the characters. It's just when things got a little too um, pretentious and a little too self serious when it became to the importance of um, chefs and bringing in real life chefs and things like that.
yeah,
That's where they kind of like lost me, but I still absolutely love this show.
yep, yeah. No, it was a great season. I think we'll probably like it even more once season four drops and finishes out the story that was started in season three.
Yeah.
So,
And
uh,
do you recall Corey's thoughts on season 3 in comparison to previous seasons, or just that he did enjoy it?
just that
I
he
know.
enjoyed it. I don't remember anything specific about the bear.
Yeah, I mean, we have his thoughts on it back in the mid-year recap episode that we did back in July because it did air in the end of June. So all three of us talked about it back then. So that's something I might go back and do after this is hear what he had exactly had to say about season 3. I know we obviously talked about it through text messages, but we definitely talked
Yeah,
about it on the podcast, the
yeah,
three of us as
yeah.
well last summer.
It's fun sometimes to go back and listen to the podcast, and you can just kind of hear it versus trying to read it off of a text. So yeah,
Exactly.
no, I encourage others if they want to hear Corey's thoughts. We'll try to find out what the episode was, and maybe I can, through the power of editing, make make something appear, somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have the power to make it appear right now or anything like that, but I can say that it was episode 107. that we all talked about it.
Okay.
So,
Well, there you go. If you want to hear more of Corey's thoughts on The Bear, episode 107, check it out.
all right.
All
How about
right,
your
that takes.
number 6 show?
So my number 6 show is an Apple TV show. So Apple TV making its first appearance, but not its last appearance on my list. Um, this is a show that, similar to The Diplomat, I think is been underappreciated, uh, not enough people watched it that I think should have watched it, and that's Dark Matter. I don't really want to talk too much about what the show is, just in case people want to see it, because I think it works best if you go into it knowing as little as possible about what the story is. Um, Otherwise, it kind of the mystery of the first episode is kind of ruined because it starts with the assumption that you don't know what's going on, kind of um, like maybe similar to the movie Abigail, where it would
Yeah.
probably be better if you didn't know.
Versus knowing everything from the trailers.
Yeah.
I'm getting the
Um,
feeling, the vibes from that with Sinners too. I'm like, you're showing way too much in this trailer.
I've heard that it would have been better if they had showed less because it is revealing like things about the
There's
movie that
there's two things that I would have liked to have not known.
yeah.
Um,
Don't say them because I don't think I
I'm
know
not
them.
going to say, I'm not going to say them. Um, but yeah, I was like, come on, you could have shown plenty of other stuff but not shown these two things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's a kind of a problem with a lot of trailers.
Yeah.
But what I will say is it's a good show, great writing, great acting. Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly are the two stars of the show. Um, what's great is I now have realized that I have the two stars of Dark City or or Dark City cast now, two
You
cast
do.
members on my
If,
top 10
oh man,
list.
if only you had Kiefer was in something.
That's true. It's unfortunate I don't have Kiefer here, but
Why was there a new season of 24 this year?
so yeah. So shout out to Dark City. But yeah, Dark Matter is a great show, underappreciated. Think more people need to check it out. But like I said, the less said about it, probably the better for people that do want to check it out. All right, that'll take us to the number 5 on my list, which is The Penguin,
On my
spinoff
list as well.
to, and also very anticipated by Corey. Um,
Yes. Um,
it's a
definitely would
spinoff of
have
the.
definitely would have made
Oh, go
his
ahead.
list. I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. So this is our kind of like half sequel to the movie The Batman,
It's our interquel until the Batman Part Two.
which I've heard is now rumors are it's going to
I
come out even
heard,
later.
I've heard there's something like going on with Matt Reeves, um, in
Like
his
health
personal
wise?
life, in his personal life,
Okay.
which is leading to the delays in the script being completed and getting into production and everything like that. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know if it's health or something else. But
Yeah.
somebody leaked something, and there's been confirmation like this didn't need to be made public. But yeah, something's going on with him, which is responsible for it continually being delayed. Um, and it's no
That's
longer worry, like no longer people being like, oh well, like even I said it, like are they considering bringing Robert Pattinson and the Batman world into the DCU or something like that? Or is there creative differences between James Gunn and Matt Reeves? It's not these things. It's something that they didn't want to talk about because it wasn't their place to talk about. Um, so
okay. Well,
hopefully
that's
everything's
that's
goes
concerning.
as well for him as possible with whatever he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but yeah, I
that's
mean, we're getting Pattinson in Dune Messiah now, because he's got
yep. I
more
did see
time on his
that.
plate. Um,
Yeah. So anyway, like you said, I hope everything's okay with Matt Reeves. Obviously, um, that comes whatever he's dealing with personally is more important than
yeah,
us getting to see the Batman anytime soon.
agreed.
Um, I had just heard that it was delayed or likely going to be delayed even further. I think we're probably looking at
I mean, we're
2028.
I mean, right now we're fall 2027, so yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it becomes spring 2028. Um,
So
we'll
yeah, that's a
see.
long time, obviously, for a follow up to a 2022 movie.
But at least we got this
But yeah, that's
incredible
exactly what I was
semi
gonna say.
sequel in the meantime.
Yeah, it's good that we got the Penguin because it did kind of focus on being a semi sequel of the rise to Colin Farrell's uh, the Penguin character, Oz
Yeah,
Cobb,
Ozcob.
and his going from a low level mobster to more of a powerful figure in the Gotham universe. I think Colin Farrell, they continue to show just how great he is at being this character that it's really hard to see Colin Farrell in, just with the combination of great prosthetics and great job that Colin Farrell does of just becoming a different person. Um, he really crushed it, I thought, in the Penguin show, and I I think it seemed like it was going to be kind of a showcase for him, and um,
And then Kristen
actually Krista
Milioti
Milioti like shows up and kind of
said, "Hold my beer."
yeah stole the show for me, and I think one of the my favorite episode of the series, which is kind
It
of
was
a
one of the best
backstory
episodes of
episode.
TV last year.
Yeah, it was just how well Milioti did in that show. So yeah, I agree. It was definitely one of the best episodes of the year, and yeah, it was show kind of took me by surprise because I didn't really know what to expect, but it captured. It really did feel like it was in the Matt Reeves universe, um, and it really did feel aesthetically very much like the movie, the
Yeah,
Batman. And so I thought they did a great job in that. Story was good. All the acting was
impressive. They
good.
pulled that off for a HBO TV show, which originally at one point it was just going to be a Max show, and then at some point last year they pivoted it to being on HBO, which definitely was good for it becoming a bigger deal in the mainstream.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't really remember anything like this where it's a continuation in between two movies that kind of fills in some of the blanks on a character. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean we get them with like MCU shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and things like that. Granted, you haven't seen
that's true.
Brave New World yet, but I mean this did it like so well. Like there's no comparison between those two
Yeah,
shows.
I think that's
Otherwise,
probably what. Yeah, I think that's probably why I didn't think about it because, like you said, they don't feel like you're like what I had imagined. It's what I had imagined the MCU TV shows were going to be like, where they would feel more like the movies, but just we'd get them on TV or on streaming instead of at the movie theater. But they don't feel like that. They feel like you could tell it's a lower budget. Not as, but like the Penguin does feel like it. It does feel like it's the same quality and everything is the same. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean they did a great job and they definitely showed that it is possible to do what the MCU's been attempting to do.
Hmm.
I think it just requires the right resources, probably the right people.
For sure. But yeah, definitely hoping we get more of Sophia Falcone from some from Kristen Milioti because like we said, she stole the show. Hope we get more of her in the future, maybe in one of the films or in a potential second season that takes place in between the Batman Part 2 and 3. Um, and then I still want to see more of Colin Farrell's Penguin, even though they have sufficiently made me root against Oz and have actually made him into a legitimate bad guy who he's just so compelling to watch, but you also find him to be a complete like piece of shit and you are rooting against, which you weren't necessarily doing that in the Batman or even during early episodes of the Penguin. But by the end of the season of the Penguin, you're like, all right, this is like someone to actively root against. He is pure evil. So the fact that he's still engaging to watch is a testament to Colin Farrell. Just killer performance from him.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Okay, well that's that on the Penguin. So that'll take me to the number four show on my list, which is Shrinking. Um, I assume this is on your list. I
Oh
assume
yeah,
it's also high on your list.
absolute banger of a season.
Yeah, it's higher on your list than my list, so
Very
you can
high
go
on my
ahead.
list. Very high on my list. And I believe Shrinking season one was Corey's favorite show of 2023, or
Oh
it
wow,
was his, or it was his most. Yeah, I believe it was. That's where it ranked. So he absolutely would have loved this season, because it was like season one was great, but season two was greater, um, and
completely agree.
can't wait to see where they go with season three now that they just like have such a feel of these characters and these actors are just so in sync.
Yeah, no, I think I liked season one, but it wasn't. I don't even know if it was on my top 10 list. I thought it was really enjoyable, but season two kind of leveled up everything from stories. Yeah, the story just got so very super compelling, but it's just hilarious at the same time, even though you're kind of dealing with some pretty sad subjects. Um, I thought Harrison Ford probably did some of his best work ever on the show. Um, they just have him down so well, and yeah, it's it's crazy how good this last season was. I didn't expect it to be anywhere near as good as it is, and um, the addition of Roy Kemp, which I can't remember what's the actor's name,
Brett Goldstein.
Brett Goldstein. His character was pretty great, and just how um, you know them kind of dealing with he's I don't think it's a spoiler to say he's the character. His character is the person that um, killed Jason Segel's wife on
No,
the show,
I wouldn't call definitely wouldn't call it a spoiler.
which is what they're grappling with in season one is the death is that him dealing with the death of his wife and his family kind of dealing with the death of his wife along with other things. Um, and so just the introduction now of Brett Goldstein as the person who messed up, had a bad day, made a mistake, and that mistake greatly impacted the lives of all these characters on the show, and just how they dealt with that I thought was really really well done, especially because you know it's complicated with like because Brett Goldstein's character is like a genuinely nice guy and um, just messed up, and so um, just kind of dealing with like forgiveness and what that all looks like. I thought they just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, the show does a very good job when it comes to showing empathy, um, like throughout the season, when dealing with his character. And man, did they kill it with that finale, um, between Harrison Ford giving his monologue, dealing with Parkinson's, cross cutting with um, Brett Goldstein's current situation. And um, oh man, it was a some tears were falling during that finale, um, from thanks to some powerhouse performances.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if
But
it's a sign. Oh, go ahead.
so that no, so what you were gonna say?
I was gonna say I don't know if it's like a sign of getting older, but definitely tears flow more during like TV shows than they used to.
Yeah, I yeah, I think it's getting older, life wearing you down, and also just like being less like who gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm allowed to show like emotion. Um, so, but yeah, some of the show like for a comedy, which is, I mean, I would say it was easily the funniest show of last year.
Oh
Also,
yeah.
it was the most emotional show of last year. So well fucking done shrinking. Really hoping we get season three this year. Since they're already filming and everything like that, and we don't have any strikes to worry about. But I did look back, and yes, Shrinking was Corey's favorite show of 2023. Um, and yes, you and I did not have Shrinking on our list. We only did top fives last year, not top tens. But you and me had Succession at number one, and Corey had Succession at number two. A lot of overlap though in our top fives last year, an embarrassing amount compared to how different our lists are this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard for me to imagine that it wouldn't have been number one just based on how much it improved on an already great show this past
Yeah,
season. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
all right, well, that takes us into my top three, which I don't think you have any of my, or I don't know that you've seen any of my
So
top threes.
I was going to talk eventually about this. So you've pushed me to watch all three of these shows. I had no intention on watching one of them, just even with you pushing me. But I did intend to watch your top two shows, and just time didn't work out. But I, we've been on in this mission to watch Twin Peaks, between Corey's passing, since I was like one of, if not his all-time favorite TV show, and then David Lynch passing in January. Like we decided, all right, now like it's time you and I both finally watch this show, and um, yeah, I let myself get sucked back into the final season of Twin Peaks, so I didn't get to either of the your top two shows, which I did intend to, and I imagine at least one of them would have made my top 10, if not both, because I was a little my number 10 show was something that I easily could have seen get knocked off by something um, better. But we'll get more to that when we get to my top 10.
Okay, and I think these three shows, two of them I think had pretty heavy awards consideration, and one I think was talked about quite a bit. So none of these
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think are like,
two won a ton of awards, or
yeah.
two of these three shows won a ton of awards.
And then one I think a lot of people talked about. So
Yeah,
and it outside and but did get awards. So I think I don't I
and
wouldn't consider any of these under the radar shows. So
two
getting
of
into my
them were also on Corey's list, so we can talk about which ones those are when we get to them.
okay, that sounds good. Baby Reindeer is my number three show. Um, I don't know how I wound up watching this. This is a Netflix show. Um,
They
the
always have
trailer did,
these very strange shows that just break out in the culture out of like
yeah.
nowhere. Um,
I
whether
think I
it's
watched this
Squid
even
Games or this.
before it broke out, but I don't know. Maybe someone online said it was good, and I was like, okay, I trust this person. I watched it, um, but it's a really interesting. I mean, the premise seems benign enough. You have um, this gentleman who's working behind a bar. Woman comes in, um, doesn't seem to or seems sad, and as a kind gesture, he gives her like a free cup of tea on the house, and it kind of starts this weird stalking relationship that she has. But he also, the bartender character, also like encourages that relationship, um, and it goes to really interesting places where it kind of explores like why he's like why he's kind of encouraging her in the ways that he does, and like you really get to kind of understand this guy on like a very deep psychological level, and just you know I think as the show starts off, she's kind of like the weird fucked up character, and then you kind of learn about how he's who he is as well, and why he's the way he is. um, there's some Um, there's a graphic part of the flashback or of a flashback piece where there's definitely some trauma. Probably one of the more graphic depictions I've seen of like sexual abuse. But yeah, I just thought it was really good. It was really well written, really well acted. Um, the guy that stars in the show, his name is Richard Gadd. He's he wrote it based on his own life. Um, Stars in it, and I think he like directed it as well. So it's basically this guy's. And I think he did like a one
Won
man
a ton of
show.
awards for it.
Yeah, I think he did a one man show, and then he took it to Netflix and got a show created about it. So yeah, it was great. I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near as good as it is, but it's a really solid drama. I guess I would
Yeah.
say in character
When
study.
when you were talking about it and recommending it, it was when I was hearing about it online and ended up hearing enough where I just like kind of dived into like what exactly the show was, and like I was just like, like I don't need all this darkness in my life. Um, like it doesn't sound like it's going to be a fun watch. So I chose not to go with it. But from everything I've heard from people, for the most part, from people who have watched it, and especially from critics and award shows, it is something that is um, worth people's time. So
Yeah,
maybe
no,
it's
it's
something I'll eventually get to, but it's not something that I have any intention of watching anytime soon.
yeah, no. If you're looking for TV to be like happy like
And I like dark television shows, don't get me wrong, but I was like, it goes through like all like a bunch of like topics, and I'm just like, this just seems bleak. Um, maybe there's some. I mean, imagine the whole thing as a cathartic experience for Richard Gadd. That is his name, correct?
yep.
Um, I don't know if the show provides like emotional catharsis by the end and or anything, but
Yeah, I don't really remember how it ends. I feel like it doesn't end in a bleak place,
that's
perhaps.
good.
Yeah, I think it ends doesn't end bleak. It's just yeah. I mean, you just have like these imperfect people.
Yeah,
Um, so
fair enough.
anyway, that's Baby Reindeer. Going to
All
my number
right.
two. It's Shogun. So Shogun was also on Corey's list. I believe Corey really enjoyed Shogun. Um,
Yeah.
Shogun was based on a book, I believe, and then it was a limited TV series.
Yeah, back in the
Um,
80s, if I'm not mistaken.
yep. So I believe that this. I haven't read the book or seen the TV series from the '80s, but I believe they changed the story quite a bit. It's still about this European crew that gets accidentally like gets shipwrecked in Japan without them having any idea. I think that there's even a
Yeah,
country
this
called
is
Japan.
this is more than I even knew about the show to begin with. I'm getting a
Okay.
little bit of a summary of why I should be watching it.
Yeah, so it's
Because this is something that I intended to watch.
yeah, so and then it's just kind of it's all about at least the beginning episodes are all about this European man being in a foreign country, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know the culture, um, and just kind of being exposed and just kind of like how he's going to get by in this foreign place that he can't communicate with the people. He doesn't know how they like their culture is vastly different from the European culture he's used to, and just trying to survive basically. And very very interesting. I believe it was originally more of a focus on the European man. This I would say is more more split. If anything, it's like less focused on him, and more just on like a lot of the Japanese characters. So there's a lot of Japanese actors in the show. There's a lot of Japanese subtitles, because a lot of people are speaking in Japanese because we're in Japan. It's not one of those shows where you're in Japan but everyone's speaking like with British accents the entire time.
Yeah,
Like no,
exactly.
everyone's speaking Japanese for the most part. So yeah, really great acting. All the Japanese actors do a fantastic job. Cosmo Jarvis is the European man. He's I guess I would consider him one of the leads. And it's just yeah, it was a really well done show. And surprisingly, I believe we're supposed to be getting a sequel to it, even though it ends where the book ends.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like looking back, yes, the white guy is first build on the show, and then B, it won the Emmy for best miniseries back back in the day. But now this one, the Emmy for best drama, was originally going to be a mini series or a limited series. Now we call it, but then they decided to continue the story. Past what was told in the book, and from my understanding, is it'll be a 3 season show. I could be wrong,
Okay, I didn't even know
but
that.
yeah, it is going to be longer than just a one series, 1 season and out story, um, as originally told, along with all the other differences um, that you had mentioned to make it more. I would imagine more similar to the book, and um, to make it worthwhile to watch if you had watched the 1980 miniseries, because it's telling it from a different perspective and in a much more authentic way by using native languages and subtitles and things like that, and following the the Japanese characters versus putting the emphasis on the foreign character, since we've seen that done so many times before,
Yeah,
whether it's
no, they
the
do.
Last Samurai or something else.
Yeah, no, they do a great job of making it feel more like how I guess it really would have how it would feel to be in this foreign culture, and just like the differences, but not necessarily one culture being better than the other. It's more of like just the cultural difference of like the importance that Japanese people place on certain things versus the European gentleman. So anyway, yeah, really worth checking out. Very good television. Looking forward to the new season or seasons eventually when those come out.
All right.
All right, that takes me to my number one show on the list, which was Fallout. So speaking of, well, right before this, before we hopped on, we were talking about video games that were made into movies. We also have video games that have been made into TV shows. Fallout being based on a video game, so it's one of the video game TV shows.
Yeah,
Um,
and we do have The Last of Us season 2 premiere tonight as we are recording right now.
yep. So video game TV shows, they're so hot right now. Um,
Just like the movies, just like Minecraft.
just like Minecraft, chicken jockey. Um, that's everyone now has to go crazy and throw
That's
popcorn
all we
everywhere.
know.
um, so this is a show created by um, Christopher Nolan's
Younger
slightly
brother,
less
Jonathan.
famous, slightly less famous brother, Jonathan Nolan. Um, it's so if you've watched Jonathan Nolan shows, he's created um, Westworld. He did Person of Interest.
Both of them
Certain
were done
other
with his wife, right? Similar to how
yes,
Nolan works with his wife on all his films.
yeah. He Jonathan works with his wife, who is
Lisa,
Lisa Joy.
yeah.
Um, I thought the show was a lot of fun. It's got it stars Ella Purnell as the main character who's a vault
Stars
dweller.
Walton Goggins,
Walton Goggins is also a very big part of the show as the ghoul.
the most
Um,
important actor on television at the moment.
he's great. Ella Purnell is great. It's kind of just this. It takes place in the video game universe, which is and people have the apocalypse had happened, and people live in these vaults under the ground. I guess I probably won't say more than that and how things play out, but just a really fun show. I had a great time with it. There's a lot of
I mean, that's fun. It's
it's
cool that you
funny.
describe like a post-apocalyptic show as fun, and like not like it's like oh, yeah, it's a fun show. Like you seem like it's like legitimately like oh, it's a fun time. Like
Yeah,
um,
they don't take themselves too seriously. I would say like lots of like over the top action, um, lots of jokes throughout the show. Ella Purnell's
that's
character.
not what I was expecting, which is definitely part of the reason why I didn't get to it last
Yeah,
year.
it's not. I wouldn't say it's a dark show. I mean, there's obviously like dark concepts, but overall, it's got more of like a fun vibe to it, just because of the over the top action and um, when you gotta see it to understand. But like Ella Purnell's character is actually like pretty funny and similar in a way to like Ariana Grande's character
And Wicked.
and Wicked, like kind of just like that humor, I guess, to an extent. So yeah, it's a I really enjoyed it. It's a good show. It's very different than Westworld, although I still contend that Westworld season one was fantastic. Um,
You can say that, but yes, the reason why I did not watch Fallout People is weighing my dislike of Westworld from Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy to my liking of all TV shows that I've seen with Walton Goggins. So Justified, Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones, and now White Lotus as well. But it was like I don't know which one is going to win out. I was stubborn and let the dislike of Westworld keep me from watching it for a while. But after the double whammy on HBO of White Lotus and Righteous Gemstones, currently that it just ended with Wallen Goggins, I did decide I'm going to go and finally give Westworld or give Fallout a shot.
yeah, Walton Goggins is great too, as he's kind of like a gunslinger type character.
And it's got
Um,
Kyle MacLachlan in it, which is fitting now to
yep,
watch after my Twin Peaks watch. So
yep,
this will likely be the next one I go to. Um, I don't see why it wouldn't be.
yeah, and it got me to go and play the games. So I mean, that's part of the reason why it's on my list. Is
How
I
are
had a
the
fun time with it.
How are the
It's
games?
it was fun. I had a fun time with it. It's just like a fun universe. It's hard to. I don't want to spoil anything about like the show, but there's more that I'm leaving out
Yep,
intentionally. Um, but yeah, it was a good time, um, and so that's why it made it to be my number one on the list. Was just I had such a fun time with it. Also, another thing in Jonathan Nolan's favor, as before I forget, is Person of Interest. Um, Mission Impossible basically stole the plot of the last two movies from Person of Interest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Person of Interest is about like two AIs like battling each other.
Gotcha.
One's benevolent and one wants to like destroy the world.
Well, there's no two AIs in the Mission
No,
Impossible
but
movies.
there's a
It's just
bad A.
people versus bad AI,
Yeah, but I mean it's bad
which has
AI
been
being
done
like the
like
villain
since at least the 80s. Um,
and the AI like using people in order to the bad AI using people and the good AI using people to kind of fight. The only difference is there's no good AI, I guess, in
yeah,
Mission Impossible, but it's it's very similar if you watch Person of Interest. So
fair enough. And yeah, obviously Corey was a huge gamer. Well, we know that's more than the audience, but the fact that he would endorse a video game, movie, or TV is a big endorsement since he is such a gamer and he was all for this show. So, um, yeah, um, like we said, it's on his list as well for shows he got to watch and complete this season. Because I believe every show that he did watch, he did see every episode of, to my understanding. There was nothing that he just started and then didn't get to finish.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. Well, that's your top 10. There is some overlap with mine, and then we'll get into Corey's alphabetically. Um, but I'll dive into number 10 for myself. Um, I originally had like a three-way battle for like 9 and 10, and then watched something that easily knocked something out and then decided I didn't want to do any ties or anything. But I was trying to watch Fallout or Shogun to knock out my number 10 because it didn't truly feel top 10 worthy. But what ended up remaining of those three shows was the final season of What We Do in the Shadows. Ultimately, I thought it had a stronger final season than Curb Your Enthusiasm did. So it's why I kept it at number 10. Made me laugh more consistently, and I just felt it had the better series finale. That was the thing that kept it in my top 10 um, over Curb, um, because until I watched this other show, those were the bottom two on it. And yeah, it was really, I think they nailed the series finale of Shadows in a what different way than other mockumentary shows have done in the past. Um, they fully like addressed it. The Office addressed it as well, but I thought this one addressed it much better than that show did. So between the consistent laughs throughout the season that you just knew we were going to get some standout episodes that were just off the wall crazy, and then a absolutely stellar series finale with plenty of callbacks to some great moments from throughout the show. Um, it was why I chose to include it in my top 10. You finished the season, Doug? Or
No,
did you get stuck
I
somewhere in the middle or
I don't even
early in the
remember if I
run?
started this season.
We were jam packed with shows in the fall, so you may not have even started it.
I don't. Yeah, I think the last season. Yeah, I don't know where I am in the show. I don't know if I started the last season or not. I might have
I
started it because they find some rando that used to be a
J-
housemate.
Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, was
Jerry the
that?
vampire who had been living who went to sleep, and they were supposed to wake him up in a certain time period, and they ended up forgetting and woke him up like 50 years later.
Yeah, so was that the last season?
That was the last season. It was the beginning of the last season.
Okay, so I started it. I just don't think I got very far.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean there was so much that we were trying to play catch up with in the fall with everything that was going on in our personal lives, and then just an insane influx of TV shows after the strikes. I mean, we were dealing with like Agatha, Penguin, and plenty of other shows during that September to November period. Shrinking, and a lot of really quality TV shows. So yeah, this one clearly slipped through the cracks for you, but I would definitely recommend going back and finishing the show because I know you will enjoy it. Um,
Okay.
it Corey was a big Shadows fan.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if it had made his top 10 um, somewhere on the list. because yeah, I mean, there's some shows on Corey's list I know wouldn't have made his top 10 had he seen everything that came out in from September through December. Um, so I think there's a high probability that this would have been one of them. All right. Number 9, I had True Detective Night Country. This is a show that I've had a rocky history with. I thought season 1 was incredibly overrated, but but had two incredibly strong performances that made me, and the writing for those two performances were enough to let me continue watching the show. Season 2, obviously everyone knows, um, it was largely criticized in comparison to season 1. Um, but then season 3 had a major rebound. I actually thought it was the best at the time, the one led by Mahershala Ali. But this season, they got rid of the original creator, um, brought in a new creator, did its own thing while still tying back even more to the original season, because it's an anthology show where each season covers different characters and a different case and different location. But this one with Jodie Foster in Alaska had in a tone that I really dug. I know diehard fans of the original season kind of thought it sucked, but and it didn't help that the creator of the show was openly shitting on the show. But I thought this was probably the best of the 4 seasons, and largely in part due to the performances by um, Jodie Foster, her co-star, was it Callie Reese? Was that her name? Um,
No idea.
da, da, da,
You're talking about the woman that was
yes, Callie Reese.
her partner.
Yeah, her partner Navarro, and then another strong performances from John Hawkes, Fiona Shaw, Finn Bennett, um, Christopher Eccleston. But yeah, really the setting, just being in a show where it's always dark, because they're in that part of Alaska where they get a season of 24 hours of darkness, really lent to a creepy vibe for the entire season. And it just worked for me. I'm excited to see where the show goes from here, since Issa Lopez, who picked up the reins from Nick Pizzolatto, will be running the show moving forward. I'm not sure where they're going to be going with season 5. I'm sure we'll continue to go the anthology route with all new characters, but with callbacks. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Corey enjoyed it a lot as well. It made his top 10 list um, for the shows he had seen. Um, you watched as well and seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought it
Maybe
was.
not as much as season 3, but it seemed like you enjoyed it more than season 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw season two. Season one
Well, you would have
was.
enjoyed it more than season 2.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah, I think season three is still the standout for me of the show. Um, I thought Night Country was good. Um, Good, not great is kind of how I felt about it. I thought Jodie Foster's performance was by far the best thing about the show, and then the setting.
Yeah,
Um, but I enjoyed it. Probably would have made my top 20 list if there was a top 20, um, but it just doesn't rise to the top 10 for me.
yeah, that's fair. There's also some recency bias on my list. I've noticed. I don't know if there is with you as well, but
No,
the
unless
shows from yours is actually very different because your top 3 shows all were from the first half of the year. But a
yeah,
lot of my list is shows that I saw either like towards the end of 2024 or caught up with in the beginning of 2025. Um, Especially with my rankings. and I'm mentioning that specifically now because I have four comic book shows in a row, and it really I struggled with where to rank them, and ultimately the one that was the most recent is the highest. But I'll get so number 8 was Agatha All Along. Um, we talked about that. I was really tough between 7 and 8 because 7 I had the Penguin. Penguin and Agatha aired basically simultaneously throughout its run, and I was trying to think like which one I ultimately liked more, which one I was anticipating more each week. Um, and I think it ultimately came down to which one I liked the ending more of, and that was the Penguin. So that was what determined 8 and 7. 6, we didn't talk about. I'm actually surprised this wasn't on your list. Um, it was The Boys. Uh, this was back in the summer, so it was further back. I just remember I the problem with I don't remember a crazy amount of the season, but I remember absolutely loving it and thinking it was a major rebound from season 3, um, and that they were really setting up the end game and just being super hyped basically every single week, and really enjoying the show. So that was I know I liked it more than the Penguin and Agatha, and since I was lumping all these superhero shows together, that's where I felt it was more fitting because the show I put one above it, I remember very distinctly, and I also was loved like every single episode. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think
what
for
was your
me and
reason
the
for the
boy,
boys not making it?
yeah, I don't know. I've never kind of rebounded in my head, I guess, with the boys. Even after like I think season 3 was a letdown. I think you're right. Season 4 was a bounce back, but it's still just not. It's not the heights for me that it was for the first maybe 2 seasons. Um, Although I did think that this was definitely a bounce back season and probably had one of the best TV episodes. You know, we're talking about best TV episodes. When I think about best TV episodes, I think the Homelander episode where he's
Where he's in the lab with
where he's in the lab is
dealing with his back trauma backstory.
yep. So I think that's a standout TV episode
Yeah,
um,
that's a moment that's like
of the
ingrained in my
year.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and
and
probably
you
one of
start
the best.
some of the
Yeah,
best like faces, gifable faces on in like TV history.
yeah. And I recently heard an interview with Anthony Starr, and it seems like he had a decent amount of input on on that episode and had thoughts about the differences from how it's written based on versus how like they ultimately went with the performance. Um, just so it seems like he's in a place where he really understands the character and is able to almost like have input in the writing process to just make sure it captures what Homelander should be like. So
That's
yeah, I mean
cool. I
it's
mean, he gives one of the best performances on TV. Definitely one of the most villainous performances. And
yeah.
I think we talked about it in the summer, but it definitely felt like season 3 they were just shoehorning every like piece of news possible into the show, and it didn't necessarily work. While they definitely continued to do that to a degree in season 4, it worked. It seemed more natural in season 4, based on the way they're setting up the end game for the show for the final season, where
Hmm.
Homelander has essentially become like the president. Um, like he's the one holding like the president on like a marionette, and really pulling all the strings, which is a pretty exciting way to go out for the final season. Uh, that now not only are they dealing with the most powerful superhero, but they're also dealing with the most powerful superhero who is running the country. Uh, so they set up some really exciting things. Obviously, we have Gen V season 2 before we eventually get to The Boys season 5. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of things they do in Gen V season 2 to um, further set up the final season of The Boys. But the little Gen V crossover stuff that they did as well, I thought was satisfying. They didn't go too overboard with it, um, but they gave you, I would say, like just enough of it to be satisfied and to
Yeah.
have further shown that yes, it was worth watching Gen V and the to get stuff out of the boys and vice versa.
Yep. I agree.
All right, so number 5 for me is very weird in the fact that I just talked during your run about um, not being a fan of Marvel cartoons or Star Wars cartoons, but for whatever reason, DC cartoons seem to work for me. I've dug Harley Quinn throughout its run, and still need to watch the most recent season and its spinoff Kite Man. I enjoyed quite a bit, but this was the peak for me so far. It was the kickoff to James Gunn's run as the head of DC, and for the new DCU. This is, I think, what he's called, like the appetizer before Superman comes out this summer. But it was Creature Commandos, animated TV show that he wrote every episode for, and um, I think the fact that he wrote every episode was a major reason why I enjoyed it as much as it did, because um, I'm very much like James Gunn's work and his writing. So the fact that I enjoyed the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy as much as I did really shouldn't be too much of a surprise that I liked Creature Commandos, since it does cover similar territory. More so the Suicide Squad, because it's basically the exact same premise as the Suicide Squad, only with um, all sorts of creatures that don't technically identify as human, compared to the Suicide Squad, which was a mixture of humans and uh, some creature like um, people like King Shark. Um, but yeah, Creature Commandos, each episode did, in my opinion, a great job of making you care about each character by providing a backstory of a character in at least one of the episodes throughout the season. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the pilot was the only episode that didn't provide any backstory, and that was probably the weakest episode of this season, because it was really just all set up, and the setup felt very similar to the setup to the Suicide Squad. But once they provided like the tragic backstories of each character in every episode, made you more invested in each character and what was going on during the present day timeline, and the um, action that was going on with all of them, as they kind of became like their own sort of like misfit found family, which is a thing that he does very well, a la Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. More so in that, with the found family stuff with the Guardians of the Galaxy series. So definitely made me excited for his run of DC stuff. We'll see how things ultimately go with Superman. Some of these characters are going to appear in live action after having debuted on Creature Commandos. Some of them already previously did appear in live action, like, and now we're in animated form, like Viola Davis's character. Um, Meanwhile, on the flip side, um, uh, Frank Grillo's character will be appearing in live action soon, and he's only been animated so far. But yeah, I was very pleased with this show and surprised by the fact that I had so much comic book slash superhero things on my list, considering I didn't have any on the movie front, and yet I had 4 on the TV front.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like this show nearly as much as you did. I thought it was okay, but it just didn't like connect with me the same way I connected with you. I think there's
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
rather like
I know. I remember. I mean, we watched the first two episodes together, but then yeah, you could definitely tell from our conversations throughout the season that I was enjoying it way more than you were, um, as it was going
yeah.
along.
There's just other cartoon superhero stuff. Like I think X Men
I haven't
'97
seen Invincible, which people talk about
and
like
Invincible's
a
better.
lot, and I haven't watched X Men. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to cartoons, I'm way more into the adult animation stuff, which X Men I guess wouldn't qualify as, but Invincible would.
X
Um,
Men's kind of adult. Not as adult as Invincible's by far the most adult out of the
yeah,
bunch.
that's Robert Kirkman,
That's
right?
yeah. So that one's like really brutal.
Yeah.
Um,
And people who aren't aware of who Robert Kirkman is, he's the creator of The Walking Dead.
yeah. So they took his comics and made it into a cartoon series.
And I never
Voice
watched
acting's great.
that Boys animated series that they did. Um,
I
I
didn't really
forget
like think that was anything
I
special,
forget
but you might like it more
I
than
forget what the name was. But yeah, I never got it around to that one.
yeah,
Um,
different animation styles per
I think
episode and
from what
anthology.
you told me, it was like, doesn't seem worth my time.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything for me.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the end of talking about superheroes. Uh, what do we got next? Number four. This was one that I just recently caught up on, so this was where I was kind of going with recency bias. But it was kind of like really took me by surprise with how much I enjoyed it. It was Nobody Wants This, a rom com type show on Netflix, starring Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. So two actors I enjoy, and it's funny that they were both on two big teen dramas of the aughts with Veronica Mars and the OC. So put them together along with a superb supporting cast, including Timothy Simmons from Veep and Justine Loop from Succession. Um, but the four of them all killed it. This was one that I watched. It was a true binge. I watched it in one weekend. The 10 episodes, quick watch though. Only, like I said, only 10 episodes. It's a 30-minute show. A lot of the episodes are only in like the 22-minute range, while some are in like 30 or a little bit over. But yeah, it's about Kristen Bell's a sex podcaster, um, kind of like a Alex Cooper. Um, what is her podcast called?
Uh,
That's popular.
Call Me Daddy.
Call Me Daddy. Yeah, it's kind of like a Call Me Daddy type podcast that she does with her sister, played by Justine Loop, who was on Succession. Um, she played, can't remember her character's name, but she was Connor's escort turned wife by the end of the
Wife, yeah.
show, um, who gets to give a very different type of performance on this. She's very funny. And Kristen Bell's character ends up meeting Adam Brody's character, who is a rabbi. And so she's an agnostic um, shiksa with a sex podcast, and he's in trying to become head of his synagogue and is a respected rabbi who's just gotten out of a long-term relationship with his Jewish girlfriend, and so you can see it's the type of show where there'd be lots of obstacles for these two to potentially get together. Um, Timothy Simmons, who played Jonah on Veep, is Adam Brody's brother, and play has, I mean, he's obviously shown his comedic bona fides on Veep. So no surprise that he's hilarious on this as well. Especially just like the differences in Adam Brody and him in all aspects, whether it's appearance or comedy stylings. But yeah, it was one where it was just like, all right, once an episode ended, I wanted to get to the next one and just spend more time watching these characters. And it is has been renewed for a second season. Um, it came out in the fall, went by my radar with everything else that we were talking about TV wise, but I was one that I caught up with maybe a month ago, and I was like, "Yep, this is high up on my list." And again, I'm not sure how much of it is recency bias, but I'm very excited for the upcoming season. And I thought it did a good job, not necessarily just like playing to all different stereotypes and whatnot, but actually doing a good job of showing religion and spirituality in a way that a lot of other things sort of punch down and just go with easy stereotypes. Um, does some of it, but for the most part, I was surprised by it. It's like, huh, all right, not a religious person, but like you're showing me that you're showing me in a way that a lot of other shows don't in with any religion why people would be interested in religion, which was not something I was expecting from a rom com that has a lot of dirty jokes and is very silly overall. But yeah, I know you haven't caught this one yet, and but you have planned to watch it at some point in the future, correct?
We're like 5 episodes in.
Oh, you've actually started watching it.
Yeah, yeah, we
Oh,
started watching it. Um, it's funny. It's very like rom com, like you said. Kind of reminds me of like Kristen Bell's character. Kind of feels like a less terrible version of her character on The Good Place.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
and yeah, it's very good. It kind of reminds me a little bit of on the rom com side. What was that TV show?
I
Um,
don't know. What was that TV show, Doug?
where she's living with a couple of guys. One of them being
A TV
uh,
show where someone's living with a New Girl.
New Girl. Yeah, it's got like it kind of reminds me like on the rom com side. It's kind of got like that. Obviously, this is a little bit.
Is heavier on the rom com than New Girl. New
Yeah,
Girl
it's heavier on the rom com and it's
is more of
more.
a hangout comedy. But yes, and all right, and I love New Girl, and that's a show where I just enjoyed spending time with the characters, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's good. It's funny. Haven't finished it, so it's kind of just um, something we just watch like an episode a night, maybe during the week.
Yeah. All right.
So
Cool. Well, be interested what you hear of the season as a whole when it ends. Um, do you agree with what I was saying about how it doesn't necessarily lean so much into stereotypes, like I don't know, like something like Curb Your Enthusiasm or like Woody Allen movies do? Um,
yeah, I mean it's not really. I mean the Judaism is there, but it's not. It's present, but it's not like the end all be all. It's kind of like the you wouldn't know the guy's a rabbi if
like
you didn't like
yeah,
people
Adam
didn't come up
Brody's
to
not
him and
playing like
say call him like a rabbi.
yeah, like Adam Brody's not playing like a neurotic like type of character. On it, like he was way more like that, like on the OC, like back in the day. Like in this, he is not nearly play. He doesn't play in that tone at all. So yeah, like you said, like if they didn't call him rabbi, like one of the big points of the pilot is her showing like her stereotype of what a rabbi would be by thinking somebody else at a party is the rabbi by when she hears that there's a rabbi there. Meanwhile, while she's talking with Adam Brody and he's just playing into it, um, and later at the party finding out like that he's the actual rabbi there at this
Hmm.
event. Um, so, all right, I was just interested to hear if you agreed with my perspective on that front. Um, all right, number three we talked about the Bear. Very excited for season 4 and seeing how this concludes. I ultimately did some shifting, and because it felt like half a season, I moved up my other show. I flip flopped it, and moved the Dynasty New England Patriots up to number 2. Um, as a Patriots fan, this was right up my alley, and I thought it was done a lot better than, also as a Tom Brady fan, than the Man in the Arena Tom Brady show that was out in 2023 slash or 2022 slash 2023, or was it 2021 slash 2022? Time is pretty, when they win that last Super Bowl, when he win that Buck Super Bowl, 2021. So yeah, it was a 2021, 2022 show. I thought this was done a lot better. It was deeper dive into the Patriots dynasty. It had interviews with everyone, which was something that that Man in the Arena show lacked, where they only had interviews with so many people, while this had, it basically had like two to three talking heads per episode, and Tom Brady in every episode. But the Dynasty had like basically everyone you could think of, other than Aaron Hernandez because he's dead. Um, but it covers all the highs and lows. It doesn't bother to get into, um, it doesn't shy away from any of the controversies that the Pats had over the years, whether it be Aaron Hernandez, Spygate, Deflategate, Tom Brady leaving the team, and uh, all the fights that were had with him and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft trying to navigate that relationship, and then dealing with the aftermath of how Brady would win a Super Bowl with the Bucks right after leaving, and then it ends in a post note with Bill Belichick having left the Patriots because the series started airing right after Bill left the team. So my only gripe with it, I would say, it was a little bit of a glorified puff piece to Robert Kraft. They don't really get into any of the dirt surrounding him, any controversy surrounding him, and they kind of lay all the blame on everything at Bill Belichick's feet for the most part, which I thought was a little shady. But Bill does
For,
didn't do himself any favors with any of the interviews, that the present day interviews that they did while filming the show, with him not wanting to talk about things and coming across completely stonewalled, incredibly different from how he's come across in interviews since leaving the Patriots. It would have been interesting
yeah,
if they had filmed the show after he had left the Pats and seeing him talk then, because he comes across the least forthcoming compared to everyone else that gives their interviews throughout the course of the show.
I'm sure Robert Kraft had some sort of sign off approval on this, and they probably
To have the, yes, to have the access that they had to the team, he had to have had a sign off, him and his son. I mean, this was based on a book, The Dynasty, which I own, which I have yet to read, and which came out in 2020, the fall of 2020, after Brady left the organization. So it clearly was in preparation, long before he left the team, but with expectations that he was going to leave the team. And then Apple got to adapting it with Ron Howard, uh, for what would end up being um, nearly 4 years after Brady left the organization. But yeah, Corey was a huge fan of this show. He's not a Patriots fan, but he did have two football related shows on the list, and this was one that he would like really seem to enjoy, despite not being a Patriots fan, because it does a strong job of diving into um, an organization who was so omnipresent and yet providing and yet was so secretive during the 20-year period that they were a dynasty, similar to the Chiefs of this decade. The only difference being the Patriots were much less forthcoming with information because of Belichick being in charge and him very much being a strict don't talk to the media type person. So I think you learn a lot of information, and you get to see a lot of different personalities than how they were when they were with the organization. Um, so yeah, um, highly recommend to any football fan, whether they are NFL fan, whether Patriot fan or not. If you're a Patriot fan, odds are you probably saw it already. But even if you aren't, I would recommend it for the historical context that it provides. And then number one for me, we already talked about. And again, I think no matter when it aired during the year, it would have ended up number one for me. But it did end in December. It was shrinking, which we've talked about. I just thought, again, a major level up from season one, which I already thought was incredibly strong. Like we said, we only did top five lists for 2023. Had we done a top 10 list for 2023, it absolutely would have made that top 10 list. But for me, yeah, there was no comparison. That shrinking was the best show of the year for me. It just definitely balanced the line between comedy and dramatic moments. Um, very much leaning in on the comedy side, but handling that drama with strong emotion um, in a way that doesn't feel forced, heavy handed, or manipulative. So, yeah, that is my top 10.
Cool.
Would you like to just run through Corey's top 10 in alphabetical order? Again, there's a lot of overlap, so we won't really be going too deep into anything. We'll just know anything that we feel is of importance um, for some of these other shows.
Sure. So number one, once again, this is in alphabetical order, so not in any sort of ranking. Number one was The Acolyte. Number two was The Bear. Number three was Cobra Kai. Number four was The Dynasty, the New England Patriots show that you just talked about, Murph. Number five was Echo, the Marvel TV series about um, it's like a Daredevil character, wasn't she?
It was a spinoff of Hawkeye. So yeah,
Uh,
Daredevil is in it. Kingpin is in it. Um, but yeah, I as far as the comics go, I wouldn't be surprised if she originated on Daredevil. Um,
feels like a Daredevil type character, and especially
it
with her
does,
relationship with Fisk. But
yeah, and how
um,
she's dealing with the lack of well, speaking isn't a or well, yeah, no, it's dealing with the lack of a sense because she's deaf. Um, Similar to how Matt on Daredevil is blind. Um, so that they have that similarity there.
um, number six was Fallout, which we talked about. Number seven was House of the Dragon. Number eight was Receiver, Netflix wide receiver show. It was a follow up to the quarterback show. Um,
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, and
I thought the quarterback show was a lot better
I heard
than the.
a lot more noise around the quarterback show than I did
Yeah,
about the receiver show. So the quarterback show aired in 2023.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
and it followed Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and somebody else.
Um, yeah, quarterback was in the summer of 23, while receiver was in the summer of 24.
Who was the third quarterback? Um, oh, Marcus
Marcus
Mariota.
Mariota.
Yeah, it follows him like basically getting cut from the team.
Gotcha.
um,
And
yeah,
then receiver followed Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Debo Samuel, and uh, Amon Ra St. Brown,
yes,
or Amon Ra
yeah,
St. Brown. I keep
Amon Ra,
fucking it
yeah,
up. I keep fucking up the first name. Um,
it's fine. And then number 9 on the list was Shogun, which we talked about. Number 10 was True Detective Night Country, which we talked about.
okay. Yeah, so my guess is the Acolyte wouldn't have made it overall. I guess it
Agreed.
was one of two Star Wars shows that aired in the year. We all watched it, enjoyed it to varying degrees. Um, but yeah, I don't think it would have made it in the end. Cobra Kai was one where it was something that was in consideration. Would have been in like my top 15, but ultimately it didn't have the last 5 episodes of the season in 2023 or in 2024 because they split it into 3 different chunks. So all Corey and I had saw in 2024 were, or well, no, Corey had only saw the first chunk. Um, the first 5 episodes aired in the summer of 2024. Then the next 5 aired in November of 2024, and the final 5 ended in or aired in February of this year. So I Corey had only seen the first 5. I saw the first 10 um, that aired last year, but yeah, we enjoyed still talking about it a bunch. Those first 5 episodes, still having a blast. But I think he really, really would have loved the last 5 episodes in particular that aired in 2025. And there's a good chance that ends up being on my top 10 list of this year. And I believe it was on my most anticipated list of this year, based on where the season had been going during those first 10 episodes. Because, like I said, very strong. Just because it wasn't a full season, didn't have that finality boost that What We Do in the Shadows had, or some other shows that I had ranked higher, like Curb Your Enthusiasm, that missed out on the top 10. It ultimately missed out on it as well. Um, and then Echo, Corey. It was the first of 2 more MCU shows in the year. I do think Corey would have liked Agatha more, and Echo wouldn't have made his top 10. Um,
Yeah, I don't think
Agatha
anyone was
more.
like super high on Echo.
It was better than expected. Is the
Right, but
what we can
expectations
say
were so
about the show.
low.
Expectations were very low. That I'm not sure how good it actually was versus it just being a lot better than expected. But it was the start of a rebound year for the MCU, which they've since squandered already in 2025 with Captain America. But yeah, that was interesting as far as the MCU goes, because we've now covered them in depth. And then I guess House of the Dragon. Neither of us put it in our top 10, which I was a little surprised about. I think we both just thought season 1 was a decent amount better than season 2. Um, and it really
Yeah,
hurt that they didn't have like a full 10 episode order. And
they
it,
cut an episode, which I think like because of budget, that was like
yeah,
supposed to be the end. So it kind of didn't really. It felt like it ended in the wrong spot.
yeah.
There was episodes I really liked, and overall I thought it was pretty. It was pretty good. But yeah, there were some weird pacing issues that kind of snuck in with Matthew Smith's character, kind of just like them, just kind of like
Him
putting him
just being
off and
off
having
on
him,
his
yeah,
own for the entire
yeah,
season.
and it felt like just killing time with him,
Yeah.
which I never like when it's that apparent. Um, and then just yeah,
Especially when he's
them,
such a dynamic character. And
yeah, and then
what they put him in wasn't that interesting.
just like yeah, ending it early because for budget reasons, I think like really was a mistake. Plus, you don't have, because all the characters are aged up. You don't have like Millie Alcock, who I thought was a standout for season one.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, the pacing for season one was so much different from season two, where it would just like it'd be years later in an episode later, while this was just in a very condensed time frame. But it really hurt not having 10 episodes, only having 8, because you could have had, it was clearly leading up to what I'm assuming is going to be in the season premiere, a major battle, which they tend to do in penultimate episodes of that show, and then having like an episode that's more of a fallout and leading into the following season.
and my
So,
understanding was that was the plan. Like that's how they
yeah,
wrote it, and then um, HBO was just like, no, you're spending too much money on dragons.
disappointing. But season 3 should be a rebound. Um,
I hope so. Miguel Sapochnik or whatever his name was will not be on the show for season three, which is interesting.
Wait, he's back?
He's not back.
So neither of them are involved?
Um, there was two people.
There was
Miguel is the
two
one that
showrunners
left.
for season one. Didn't one leave already for season two?
Oh, was he not in season two
He
already?
wasn't in. Yeah, he already wasn't in season two.
Okay, so that could have
It's
also
been.
been a
It's
reason
just
why
been.
season
Yeah,
two.
it's been Ryan Condal like as the sole showrunner since season
Yeah,
two.
and Miguel Sapochnik did um, the Battle of the Bastards episode, I believe, which was um, considered to be one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So
So
what? He was
that's
co-showrunner, and then at first, and he directed a bunch of episodes.
yeah. So I
Um,
mean, like I said, and he delivered probably one of the most memorable episodes of Game of Thrones. Um, Also, another episode he directed, which was also one of the most memorable, but for a bad reason, was that episode, the big
the one that
Nightwalkers
was nearly
battle
impossible to watch.
that no one could see.
Yeah.
Um, so he had mixed things, but I mean, I really loved that the Battle of the Bastards episode. So anyway, I was sad to see him go. Hopefully, his departure wasn't the issue; it was more the budget issue. But we'll have to see when season three airs.
Yeah, and we know George R. R. Martin wasn't a big fan of season two of House of the Dragon, but whatever. I finished writing your fucking series. Um, but yeah, the pacing and HBO budgets is concerning because we are hearing like Last of Us season two is having a pacing issues. Last of Us season one, are really our only criticism of that was pacing, and just feeling like it could have been a little bit longer. So I'm a little nervous with what they with how they run their big budgeted shows moving forward, because this wasn't really an issue in the past, but they also didn't have shows with as massive budgets and special effects that they do now. But it has become an issue ever since the later seasons of Game of Thrones, um, and never has gone away since then.
Yeah,
Compared to their
I'm
other
hope.
prestige TV shows that are more low budget, like Succession.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they're saying it seems like Zaslav is very much more money sensitive
Yes.
of a CEO, so it'll be, I don't know. That kind of worries me a little bit, but I guess we'll see. And I was trying to get a Dream of Spring update for you, Murph. I haven't, unfortunately. I don't have an
I
update
don't
for
even
you.
think he's
So.
he's like giving updates anymore.
No, he still is. He's still, because
Uh,
he still appears. His latest update was
I'd be surprised if the book comes out while he's alive. I If it does, there's zero chance that the seventh book will come out while he's alive. I mean, it was 2011 when the last book came out. It was the year the first season of Game of Thrones started that book 5 came out. It's insane. The TV show
yeah.
ended 6 years ago,
Yeah, and
and
they were hopeful that the books were going to be done by the time they finished.
God, it just makes what J.K. Rowling did so much more impressive with how she was cranking out those books. Obviously, they're YA literature, so despite having crazy page counts, it's not nearly as long as these stories. But she was cranking them out to make sure that these books were coming out and these like before these movies, and they had a clear road path to the end of the Harry Potter series versus Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones they just had to go off on their own path, and we saw how that ended. Not satisfyingly.
No, definitely not. Which I mean, kind of can feel for them in the.
Oh yeah, I do. I'm much less hard on Benioff and Weiss than a lot of other people are.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in our lifetimes we'll see those books
Yeah,
get released in some form, whether or not Martin finishes themselves or there's a ghostwriter that finishes them for him. Um,
well, it looks like
yeah,
we'll get GTA 6 before then. So, all right. Anything else?
no, I mean it was a great year of TV. I think 2025 is also shaping up to be a great year of TV. So I'm sure we're already thinking about our lists for 2025 and what those are going to look like. But I mean, there's already shows.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, we've already had a bunch of good stuff already between Succession. Um, we've had White Lotus, which has been a major water cooler show, um, and some other shows
yes,
that you and I each respectively enjoy. And now The Last of Us will be starting tonight.
yeah, which is a show that we've been anticipating pretty heavily since the first season ended. So yeah, no, it'll be it was a great year in 2024, and 2025 seems, as far as TV goes, and 2025 seems to be shaping up to be just as good, if not better.
Absolutely. But yeah, this is probably, I guess, the last episode that's really dealing with um, stuff that Corey was actively involved in from last year. So, again, stick around for the end credits um, that Doug put together for these last that we'll be using moving forward for these last two episodes that sort of bookend the new intro that Doug created a couple episodes back. Um, Corey will still be a part of the show moving forward. We do have plans to do an episode about Twin Peaks. Since we talked about earlier, Doug and I are finally catching up on that show that Corey loved as much as he did. Um, but yeah, and we have got some. We are going to resume our yearly film series that we put a pause on back in the last one we did was 2021, but it was something fun that we did covering the years of 1980 through 2021. So we do have a few years of movies to talk about with Corey's input, and we will have a special guest for those, which we're planning on doing sometime in the near future. But all right, that's a wrap for today. This has been Doug and Murph at Live Breathe Film, signing off.